What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of 7 Second Offense. Glad to be back to our weekly episode grind. The boys are rising and grinding. Cody, Jimmy, how we doing this week?
We're back and
Doing
alive.
great.
It's been a great week.
It has.
It has.
Not sick anymore, healthy, ready to go. Glad you're tuning in with us tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. We've linked all of our episodes up at the top, so click on those. Check them out if you haven't. If you're listening on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Music, literally any other place that you possibly could be listening to this thing, make sure that you follow us, give us that 5-star review. And, for the rest of you, we're glad you're here. Welcome. Welcome to the army that is 7 Second Offense. For those of you that are new, we start out every episode with a segment that we like to call Under the Sun, talking about the Phoenix Suns and everything that is going on in the world of basketball. That said, I like how I have a very, announcer's voice on right now. I've just moved into it.
I'm glad you've taken this time to stop, because my whole time I was like, you are killing this right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I actually wanted to stop so you could acknowledge how great I was doing, and we continue. Anyways, basically what we're going to do is Jimmy has looked up potential trades that could happen with the Phoenix Suns and other National Basketball Association teams. And Cody and I are going to yay or nay the trades. We haven't seen these before.
No.
I know, me too.
So I have to preface this. So yeah, they don't know anything about what I've looked into.
Yeah.
What is going to be really exciting though is Theo knows that he knows way more stuff about basketball than I do. So he's probably going to be really excited to see what the heck I'm going to talk about. Because I feel like anytime I've been oh, dude, did you see this? He's always like, oh yeah, dude,
They came out 2
obviously.
weeks
It's just
ago.
matter of fact, oh yeah, of course I saw that. And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. That's it's pretty crazy, isn't it? And then
But that said, for real, you all need a friend in your life that is the biggest just guy that's going to hop on anything to hype you up, and that is my man, Jim. So I know you're hey, I don't know about whatever, but you're also I tell you something that clearly you probably don't care about at all, and you just pretend
He
it's
runs
the best
with
thing
it.
ever. Yes.
well, it's also funny because then on the other side, I was talking to Cody before we got started, and he's like, so did you come up with real stuff, or are you gonna say bring back Kobe from the dead?
Yo, you're just going to say that right now? Yo, I said that offline on purpose.
Dude, it's so funny.
What? Yeah, you're you trade book for 2004 Shaq.
Totally me.
No, dude, it's so funny.
I'm gonna have
Well,
diehard Kobe
Well,
fans.
it's just funny because I didn't even think about just coming up with something outrageous like that.
Right.
But I was like, oh man, I wonder what you guys would have done if it was just all joke trades.
Bro, the thing about the Suns is we get thrown in every trade conversation because it's it's not like we're building anything.
Well, think about
Oh.
James Jones, Jones,
Yeah.
right?
The GM, yeah.
Organization, and we're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we're gonna get LeBron now.
Yeah. But anyways, all that to say, it's you could look up stuff that's real, but it's obviously that's never gonna happen. But I mean, who knows? Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm excited. Let's do it.
All right. Anyways, I'm gonna start with some people who are gonna be unrestricted free agents coming up, just to kind of see
Okay.
would you guys be open to having these players in, and then I'll go into a couple actual trades. Does that sound
Okay.
good?
Okay.
All right, so first one, Derek Favors with the Pelicans,
Ooh, yeah.
power forward.
Okay.
Strong.
I might be asking a question that you don't know the answer to. Do you know what our cap base is?
I asked him for this.
Did you? Do we know what it
No,
is?
I didn't really factor in a lot of that stuff.
Okay,
With some of the
okay.
people, I was trying to find people who are I'm not grabbing people who have max
Nah,
contracts or anything like
Okay.
that.
Did Derek Favors answer? Yeah, for sure. Because power forward, I feel is the spot, at least on the starting five that we have. To be fair, we haven't played a game in a minute, so I mean, it's whatever. But that is the spot that I feel we have some decent shooting, but we could use somebody that could pair alongside Ayton pretty well.
Also, if we kept Rubio for a little bit, they were on the Jazz together as
Oh.
well.
Okay.
Yo, look,
Good point.
bro,
Yeah.
you see,
Yeah.
you know facts. You got facts.
A little bit.
I'll agree with you. I think he brings a little mentality to the court.
Yeah.
He's tough. He's big. They're the Pelicans, but brings somewhat winning in the locker
True.
room. So
I mean, plus that Pelicans team, we probably could get away with some trades with them since they're so young.
All right.
I'd go ahead. Yay that.
Yay.
Couple more quick ones. DJ Augustine is gonna be free agent.
I'm gonna go
forgot
nay.
that guy. Yeah, I forgot that
Yeah,
guy
big-
existed. I'm gonna be
big
real.
nay. Yeah, we need a good point guard. I'm willing to get rid of Rubio, even though we gave him a nice little contract. So I don't think teams
Yo.
are really gonna want to pick that up.
Yeah.
But he's not the fit.
All right, this next one. This is like the kind of person that like I would have no idea about, and Theo would probably be like, "Oh yeah, obviously." Are you guys familiar with Shane Larkin?
Larkin.
So yes and no. I heard his name in a Suns trade that was potentially going to happen at one point, and then didn't look up literally any footage on him at all. So no idea. However, as the Suns, I usually pretty much yay every trade because we just need players. But I literally have no idea who Shane Larkin is.
Okay, so anyways,
no
I was
idea.
I was
Who's he
looking up
play for?
information. He's played in the NBA before, and then basically he is in the EuroLeague now.
This sounds like the caliber of player that the Suns go after.
Dude, but he's like the freaking EuroLeague MVP.
Oh,
Bro,
Yeah,
just
actually-
listen to him listen to these stats. So, so part of it, he's 5'11", he's a point guard.
Okay.
so super undersized,
Right.
but averages 22 points per game,
Okay.
4 assists, 3 rebounds, 1.3 steals. Check this though, 53% field goal percentage,
Oh.
50% 3-point percentage,
Oh.
90% from the free throw.
Yeah,
My
that's
man
not
is a
bad.
Oh my God,
50,
wants to be
90.
Nash so bad.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm still hard pass. If he was good enough to be in the league, I know he was at one point. He'd be here today.
yeah. It's just tough because it's like, who's our backup point guard right now?
We have Elia Kobo, and
Yeah. That's
Oh.
right. We
We
got
got a
Elliot,
boy-
but
That boy from West Virginia. That we're
yes,
Javon Carter.
Javon Carter.
yeah.
The point guard.
No.
Why? Here's my question: why after Steve Nash left did we like get 40 point guards, and then for the longest time we had 0 point guards,
right.
and now it's back to like a weird like we have like 1.5 because Akobo usually like puts in a nice game here or there, and then Javon Carter
Yeah.
can lock down on D, but beyond
Right.
that, it's kind of like whatever.
Yeah, we're struggling, but I'm gonna nay that he's not the answer.
Yeah, facts. We're going to move into the first half and starting to transition into conversations that have changed the way we look at the world. And our first half is always a little bit lighthearted. And this week, we're picking up a segment that we've done in the past. We did the most underrated things, learned about Cody's pregnancy pillow,
Yeah, did
and
baby.
now we are going to go to the most overrated things and see what we're going to learn about this time. So, Jimmy, would you like to start us out for your top 3 overrated things?
I would. I'm about to trigger some people with these real quick.
I don't know.
No.
Gosh.
Okay. So, first thing that I think is overrated is expensive watches.
Ooh.
So, originally, I was going to say something like the Apple Watch.
Okay.
And as much as I personally would never get one,
Mm-hmm.
there's some functionality to it. Like, I can get it.
Okay.
Right.
But for someone who like drops racks on something that literally just tells the time that I could do by like looking at a phone or like getting in my car
Yeah.
or buying like a $20 watch.
Yeah.
Like that's just like me personally. I think that it's just like it just feels so pretentious
Yeah.
to like spend an exorbitant amount of money.
Yeah.
Granted, I understand it's an accessory.
Yeah.
People use it for like fashion
Ye-
purposes.
Yeah.
But I'm like, its purpose is to like tell time, and like, bro, like you can get a Casio calculator watch that, like, technically by the standards that I'm giving, like exceeds like,
Well, but also everybody has a phone, so it's like, why do you even need a
yeah, like
watch?
watches themselves are like almost overrated.
So what's a good price for a watch if you're gonna wear one and buy one?
Bro, man just said Casio watch.
Yeah,
I don't
dude,
even know
freaking
what that
Casio
is.
calculator watch.
It's like you get
You
them
can-
at Walmart.
Yeah, they're like
You know what?
20
I'm
bucks.
not trying to one up you. You know what's even more overrated than that I didn't think about until you just started talking is expensive pens.
Oh, dude.
Like
yeah,
people drop like racks on like a pen. Like
yeah.
that whole thing's just like. Don't get me wrong. Like it'd be sick to have like a ball and pen.
Right.
But I'm just not gonna make money and be like, yo, I'm about to drop money on a pen,
Yeah.
dude.
Or get their name on it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Anyways, that's I hear you.
It's funny that you say that because I actually do have like a $20 pen.
Really.
Yeah. But
Well, I'm talking
Anyways.
like racks of money.
oh
so.
yeah, well yeah, I don't make racks, so that is easy for me to not spend racks. Second one, this one's gonna be probably like the most. Actually, you know what?
I
I'll
don't
say
know,
the
the
most
watch was already
controversial things for the last.
The
You know
watch
what?
was
You're
already
right,
controversial. So.
dude. All right, this next one, Marvel movies.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing.
Marvel movies.
Specifically for like people who are just like adults, who like
Yeah.
will like defend them like to death.
People's business.
Oh, I don't know. The thing is, like, it makes sense for like kids. I mean, they have great production value. Don't get me wrong. For me personally, I feel like it's just like the same like generic storyline, and I
Yeah,
think
but didn't
that
you
like,
watch like that Star Wars series?
dude. Okay, so I was, dude,
Yo.
okay, so I was literally telling Cody beforehand. I was like, yeah, man, like I would say Star Wars, but I like Star.
You watch
Wars,
like
so
the
I'm
Clone
not
Wars
gonna-
series, but you're like, yeah, dude, you gotta grow up
Okay,
someday.
well-
There's hypocrisy in this.
Okay, well,
Yo.
Star Wars is also overrated, but I didn't want to just like
okay.
call
I
out
mean,
stuff that I
I
like.
disagree, but you know,
Yeah.
Hey,
dude,
you know
Marvel's
what?
held me down so much. I disagree.
I'm just saying my thing with Marvel, it's like this is like a decade or beyond that like we're talking about like those movies. When I watched that second Avengers movie, I'm like, dude, this closed a chapter of like, a third of my lifespan.
Yo, Thanos snapped his finger and look at the state of the world right now.
True.
Think about it.
But overrated to some people.
Anyways,
Okay, no, good. That's
anyways,
good. That's good.
I've been controversial enough. The last one though, so this one's like a bit more niche,
Okay.
but I think what's super overrated is having or owning like the top tier of something. So what I mean by that is
Okay.
like people who buy the latest I'm not talking necessarily about like phones or like, stuff like that. I'm talking about like people who buy like the unnecessarily like powerful like equipment for like consumer use,
Yeah.
or like they buy like they spend like literally thousands of dollars for something that only marginally performs better than like
Right.
the next like step or two down. So like I say that because like I play like RPG games, for instance, where it's like the most expensive things are like incredibly overflated,
Yeah.
and they don't even like really do that much better than like common stuff that you could get. But it's funny because it's like a microcosm of like real life, where it's like you could get, I don't know. I don't want to get too controversial, but
Oh,
all I'm
same.
saying is there's a lot of stuff that's like meant for like
no, true.
commercial grade stuff,
Right.
that it's like it makes sense why like we have supercomputers and things like that, but to
Right.
have like that sort of like power for like playing Minecraft is like it's just completely like, yeah, dude.
You
like,
ever, Jimmy? You ever play those, or Cody? You ever play those video games where like you have a certain amount of money and you can buy like different perks with like your money?
Absolutely.
Jimmy's like the type of guy in those games that like looks at it and then he's like, oh, this is like exactly what you should do for like the most efficiency. Whereas like I'm just like, I just want to buy this because it looks sick. He's like, no, like if you buy this one thing to like this level and then this thing to this level, like this is
Right. Jimmy has
okay,
an actual
guy who did the
savings.
exact same thing to me.
no. But what? No. But what I'm saying is that this is true. Like this is why you think this.
It makes sense.
All right, that's fair.
I mean,
Anyways,
to be fair, I'm not blasting you. I'm just saying when I play those type of games, I just say, hey, tell me what to buy, and then you just tell me what to buy, and then I win.
Respect.
I basically what I'm saying is I suck at those games. I'm saying Jimmy will start like months after me and then surpass me like really
Well.
quickly. I love it. No, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
That was an out of the box thought. That is accurate. Very much so.
Those are good. Definitely highly overrated besides Marvel. I agree.
He's,
All right, Cody.
Cody's like, my first one, opinions are overrated, actually.
Oh.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
All right. So I got 3. I'm gonna start off light. And then I'm really making my way towards that third one. I'm really gonna come at some next. But let's start with hanging out at night. I'm definitely gonna say that's highly overrated.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's when I hang out late at night, my whole next day is shot. And then if I try to wake up early, regardless, I'm tired. More things are open during the day for us to do outside of COVID, right?
Yeah. This is such a like. This is like the end of college Cody. I feel like.
Yeah, for real. That's
You're
all I
such a
used to
grown
do.
man.
I used to hang out till like 3 a.m. But if I could be home by like 9 or 10, watch TV, watch the movie, and go to bed, living.
Okay.
So yeah, rather hang out
Okay.
during the day. I think hanging out at night's overrated. Second one, warming up. I love sports, Theo. Me?
True. You do.
Do.
You
The
do.
weird sports, like, at least in American
Weird
culture.
sports.
So I love
okay.
tennis, right? That's not big.
Yeah,
popular.
yeah.
I love
Yeah.
soccer, and that's
Right.
outside like that.
I thought you were gonna say like field hockey.
Oh no, that would have been good. But what I can't stand, and what's the most overrated sport ever,
What?
baseball. Baseball. Overrated. Agreed?
I'm with you on that.
Dude,
Oh, yeah.
I could like take back some of my worst memories of just pure boredom and it's being at a baseball game. So I kid you not, anytime I'm ever actually bored, like, well, I could be at a baseball game. No, I'm serious. It's like if I'm home alone on the couch, like, well, at least I'm not at a baseball game and
Listen,
it gets me through.
Baseball was fun to play like when I was in Little League.
Okay.
But then, like, the moment that I stopped, I was like, okay, this is like anytime, you watch a game, it's like,
So that's
bruh,
the
what?
thing. Every baseball head's like, I just love watching baseball. And every time it's on at the house, everyone's on their phone. So it's like, how much do you actually love watching this? Or do you just like to
That was like,
say you do?
I think there was a game, it might have been a minute ago, but yeah, it was like a 6-hour long game or whatever. And everybody was like, that was sick. And I'm like, why?
You're on
What
Instagram. Yo, what?
What made that more sick than just getting it out of the way in like 30 minutes?
Dude, it's so funny that you say that too. I was listening to the radio this morning
Yeah.
and they were talking about how normally if like a team was like, 1-6
Yeah.
at like the start of a season in baseball, people are just like, yeah, it's just the beginning of the season. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
but like
'cause
now, people are like, oh, like, yeah, you're like screwed.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's like,
because
yeah,
what? There's 182 games, I think, normally.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so many games.
yeah.
I mean,
So
82 for basketball is already a lot. So 182 or
And
however
every
many it
score
is.
less than 3. Do they call it point? Dude, I don't know a thing lick about baseball. Do they call it points, home runs? What do they call that?
Runs.
Runs?
Yeah.
So it's like 3-0.
Yeah, true.
So I watched 4 hours of 3 runs. That doesn't make
True.
sense.
How I feel about baseball is how probably a lot of people feel about soccer, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I love soccer.
Dude,
So, anyways,
soccer is-
continue.
I'd go on that and say soccer might be better than basketball. Another conversation, another time. Third, final. I want to get in the business of every single millennial.
Gosh, I don't know if I
You-
can handle this.
If you aren't listening, I need you to turn your volume up. Business. The man I am about to say,
Ooh.
an icon to me personally. Don't know him, but I almost look up to this man. But in the genre of how I choose to use him for the sake of this conversation, overrated. Boys, audience, girls, family, Tyler, the Creator. I said it. Music. Overrated. And you know what irks me the wrong way?
What?
No one ever talks about Tyler, the Creator. But as soon as he drops an album, the entire world is the biggest Tyler, the Creator fans ever. And all they do is they run to social media for 7 days straight. You know what irks me even worse? All 100 people that you and I are thinking of right now Name one time you ever heard someone in the car play Tyler the Creator.
Dude, for real
No,
though.
name one time. You know one person who's ever played his music, but they will go to bat for him every time he drops an album.
Oh,
I feel like he's like a vibe though. Like that was that your point though?
Yes.
Your point is that his music's overrated, but that like he's like a
Such a vibe. Everyone wants to like rep him so heavy.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, just admit, cool dude, icon. He's a vibe, but his music is trash. You really don't like it. But you're gonna go to bat till you die. Oh man. Gets me hot. Where?
Oh man, that's good. Yo, drop down in the comments down below what you think about my guy Ty. Man, this is controversial.
Yeah.
I like how we're living in the age of controversy right now as a nation, and we're like, yo, let's just be unnecessarily controversial. Like not actually benefiting us whatsoever. We're like, let's just throw more controversy out there.
Not at all, yeah.
All right, here's my underrated things.
All right, let's hear it.
You guys definitely taught me, but okay, first one I feel like is fairly. I don't think this is that big of a deal, but Panera Bread Company underrated
Oh.
Really?
or overrated, overrated,
Yeah.
overrated.
No, I
Freaking love Panera Bread. Here's why: I don't like to go out to eat at places that I can just like make at home. So like, I'm not just gonna go to a sandwich place because I'm like I could have just done that at my house.
that's like such a parent thing to say.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, I don't know. It's just like you go to Panera Bread and you're like, oh, turkey sandwich.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
overpriced. I can't tell you last time I've been to one.
Yeah, and then like the side is like a bag of chips. Like that's where for me. That's where it's like I could have literally just like left.
You
So
get
no,
you probably get a pickle on the side too, right?
yeah. I will say they have a Reuben sandwich that's pretty good, but again, dude, literally the last time I went to Panera Bread, I can't tell you.
Overrated. That's a good one.
Thank you. Okay, the second one, campfires. Here's why. I enjoy camping quite a bit, actually. I enjoy campfires in this present moment that we're having our conversation. But I promise you, the moment that I sit in front of a campfire, I'm going to be like, dude, this sucks. Because the smoke is in my eyes. I smell like campfire for the next month and a half. And then it's like it's kind of a vibe, but the vibe to like inconvenience / I smell atrocious ratio is not at all worth it.
Oh yeah.
That's
and then
so
you have
real.
bonfires.
Oh gosh. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I guess
Anyways.
I never considered how much of an inconvenience a fire is.
That's the thing that's so overrated about them. I like campfires,
Right.
but I know though that I'm like, don't lie to yourself. You also hate them, and don't pretend like you like them.
Yeah.
I have to like stand my ground, look myself in the mirror, and I'm like, you hate campfires.
You're fighting with yourself the whole time internally.
Yeah. So shout out campfires, you suck. Okay, this third one, this is gonna be like random. I feel like we kind of missed our calling, Cody. I feel like we made this kind of a Suns themed podcast.
Okay.
I feel like what we should have done, now that we've had some conversations about underrated and overrated, what we really should have done was had a pillow themed podcast.
Oh, talk to me.
Because here's my overrated thing: sleeping on top of a pillow.
Keep going.
Like, first off, if it comes down to like having a pillow, like if it's like, okay, you have to like sleep on a pillow or just not have a pillow, I would just choose no pillow.
In general, sleep pillowless?
Yeah. Now, when I have a pillow, you know what I do with it? I put it on my head, not under my head.
No, you don't.
I promise you. I bury my head, so it's almost like a glorified sleeping mask.
You put the pillow on top of your head?
Yes.
There's some psychopathic tendencies.
Because
No,
there.
I mean, I can normalize. I do that with like a second pillow.
Yeah. I just
But,
don't
like-
use the first pillow because here's the thing. What ends up happening is it's like my spine's like this, right? It's like flat. And then it's like my neck goes like 45-degree angle. And it's like I end up being like, yeah, this is less comfortable than if I just slept on the bed.
So you sleep on your stomach?
Yes.
Wow. Top of your head like a cocoon.
If I'm sleeping on my side, then I would use a pillow.
Okay.
But I usually sleep on my stomach. So I just am like,
Pillow
no
over
pillow.
the head. Man, I probably won't try that, but I feel like I have to.
I mean, hey, stomach sleepers out there. All right.
Mhm.
Stomach sleeper army. The strongest army on the internet, really. Let me know what you think. But how do you guys sleep? Do you sleep on your side or your back? Or
I
your
sleep on my,
stomach.
so that's the like main reason I got a pregnancy pillow is to train myself to sleep on my back. It's so bad for your spine to sleep on your stomach.
yeah.
So
Yeah, sorry, chiropractor. What do you do, Jimmy?
Yeah, I sleep on my. Well, I sleep best on my back, but like
Okay.
I naturally like sleep on my side, if that makes sense.
mm.
So
So it's
guys,
like easier for me
mummy
to
it.
like fall asleep if I'm like on my back, but like naturally I just like always be on like my left side.
Yeah, I
Also,
thought-
fun fact: apparently, like if you lay on your side, it's better to lay on your left side than it is on your right side because of
Yeah.
like how your organs like sit in your body.
No
My
say
mom
that.
always told me that when I
Mhm.
had like a stomach ache going to sleep. She would be like, sleep on like this side.
Dang, we might as well be doctors. This is like a doctor podcast.
All I'm saying, if you sleep on your stomach, get rid of your pillow. You don't need it. It's overrated. Save yourself some
Man.
money.
That goes against my whole underrated main course meal. Kind of
True.
hurt. I'm kind of hurt you came at me like that.
I'm not trying to come at you. I'm trying to come at pillows.
Hmm.
All right, into the more important conversation. The second half. We're talking this week about big steps that we've all taken in life and kind of the process of basically, for lack of a better idiom, taking the plunge into whatever it is that we've each done. And so I want to start out kind of talking through what some of those steps are and then ultimately get to, what we learned, maybe what was unexpected about it. And then if we have any advice for people that are kind of trying to make a big decision or go into a step of faith. Because I think truthfully, you talk about things that change the game. Some of the stuff that we've done has definitely changed the game for us. So Cody, you are now the world's most successful business owner. Forbes magazine listed you in I think it was 15th, wasn't it? In top
it has to be.
top
15th
100
most
top
unknown
100
person?
business top 100 business owners under 25. So yeah, Cody, first off, do you want to maybe plug your business and use our platform to get more business? And then secondly, if you have time, would you like to maybe explain what it is that that you did?
That was good. Yeah, so I started the Cody Bender insurance firm back in November, and kind of just a process getting that started. I think mentally, I had this plan, and I'm real big on visions and trying to put systems to it, right? And I
Yeah.
started off with taking, honestly, cheesy. Everyone will say it though. Take a dream and you put it to pen, put it to ink in a journal.
Cool.
So something I had in mind is like 3 businesses by the time I'm 45, and
Oh wow.
really I put myself on this plan, try to have everything together. Of okay, I'll start my first thing at 30. Until then, I'll mentors and learn as much as I can. That clearly, grace of God, didn't work out as planned. Had an opportunity in November, and we'll get into detail. But I think when you prepare yourself, even though you're so unprepared, you always be more unprepared than prepared going into a moment. But I think you have to be okay with that. So the whole situation was not planned.
Yeah.
But it was willing to step into something knowing I've prepared myself.
So yeah, so your point is you prepared yourself not necessarily for anything specific, but just in general, and then obviously you were kind of ready or more prepared when the time came.
Absolutely.
And so you graduated college
Mhm.
and
Dropped
awkward.
out of college.
Okay, so you dropped out of college.
Right.
You went the Steve Jobs route,
I did.
and like every other like super brilliant person, really shouldn't have graduated. That was a bad call by me. But so you left college though, and you weren't planning on doing what you're doing now, isn't that right? Or
no,
was that the case?
So what I'm doing now is always like my long-term goal.
Right.
Just had no idea what would happen at 24.
So you thought it was just down the road.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The main reason I left college was because of what I'm doing now.
Okay.
I realized that look, I'm into financial debt and I don't see
Yeah.
a way out of it. And also I just felt just such a pull in my heart ever since I was young of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And there's avenues of why that we could definitely get into.
Yeah. Cool. Sweet. So we'll get back to that. Jimmy, you've definitely made a big change within the last 3 years. Talk to us.
Yes. So I went to school. I did graduate college. Shout out to college gang. I graduated in Oklahoma. It's where I grew up. I went to school in Missouri for a couple years out of high school, and then I finished up my bachelor's in Oklahoma City. And afterwards, I had, over time, just kind of put away the things that I like really wanted to do and the things that I was really like passionate about. And it was just kind of like, well, maybe it's not the right time, or maybe it's just not what I'm like really meant to do. And I ended up enjoying what I was studying. And I was like, well, maybe this is like what I'm supposed to do, and like maybe that was like just for then, and like I don't know. And I never really felt like super great about being in Oklahoma. I mean, I never liked it a ton to begin with. It's not overrated because I don't know anyone who rates Oklahoma highly. I mean,
Hey, Oklahoma City and Tulsa, they've got their stuff.
They do. Everywhere else, anyways. All that to say, I graduated. I just got out of a long-term relationship that was really bad. I finished school, didn't really know what to do, didn't have anything lined up work-wise or housing situation. Like none of that was really kind of lining up. And I just really needed to get away from a lot of the stuff that I was around, because it was just, I wasn't around a lot of people who were investing and believing in me. And so I had about maybe like a few $100 to my name. I move out. Well, I talked to Theo. Me and him, we went to school together in Missouri. So I hit up Theo. I'm like, yeah, dude, life sucks. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And he was like, dude, just move out to Arizona. Like, new place, much bigger than Oklahoma City. Like, tons of opportunity. Like, you should like really consider it. And I was like, well, let me think about it. Yeah.
Because I just lost a roommate. So it was like,
Perfect.
well,
timing.
technically I need a roommate.
I had no idea. I was just like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I took maybe like a couple weeks to pray about it. And I was like, you know what? I feel good. I applied to like tons of places. Actually, such an incredible story. I move out to Arizona, which for people who live in Arizona, I moved in August and I didn't have AC in my car at the time.
Cool.
So I
Shout
also,
out 2003 Saturn.
Oh yeah, I had a 2003 Saturn, freaking no AC. I had to drive through Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona.
Bro.
I
in
didn't know
August.
that. That's rough.
Oh yeah, with no AC, few $100 to my name. Literally half of that went to gas and paying for a hotel like on the way out. And I remember getting like pretty close to the valley, and like my phone started to like overheat, and I had to like stop. It was the same thing even whenever I did when I had job interviews. I like had a job interview in the morning, and I like went, and I can map directions there fine. And then my phone overheated by the time that I was trying to like go home, because like I was done with the interview in the afternoon. So I have no AC driving through like Scottsdale, trying to like hopefully find my way back to
That's so sad.
this place that I've lived at for like a week in Tempe, that I have like no bearings of like whatsoever.
That's
being like, dude,
great.
like, so I was like, yeah. Anyways, all to say, a lot of it was like, it was like exciting, but it was scary. But I think the biggest thing for me, especially with stepping out in faith, was that I realized kind of like where I fit with like other people in my life. And like what I mean by that is I realized that in order to like have the faith, you have to like trust in things that you can't see or that you can't like do on your own, basically. And so part of it was with Theo that, you know, it was going to be a place to live. Like he was going to be able to help me out. I was crashing on a couch. Shout out to that red couch.
Vibe.
Yeah, I didn't have a bed for like 4 months because anyways, but I moved out to Arizona. Long story short, I get a call from a place that I forgot that I even applied to within 2 days of being in Arizona. I accept a job offer 7 days after moving to Arizona. So a week prior, I was like, dude, I have no money. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like still applying to places. And then I get a job. I was paying half of what I would have spent in rent if I was going to live in Oklahoma City. The salary, the full compensation package was double the only job interview that I had in Oklahoma City. And so like, not to say that like, if you just do like crazy things, then like great things are going to happen to you. But like in my instance, there was so much that I just would have completely missed out on had I not taken the moment to be like, I can't do this on my own and like accept it for what it is. And so for me as a Christian, it allows me an opportunity to experience what it's like to put my faith in the Lord.
Yeah.
But I think even just for people who don't believe or they, you know, might wrestle with that, even just from like a practical standpoint, it allowed me an opportunity to realize that other people in my life do care about me and that they're there for me and that other people can do things that I just can't do on my own and they could help out. And I was reading this book. I forget what it's called, but I could put it in the show notes and I can add it to our digital library. But I was reading this book that was basically talking about how we are created. It was coming at it from like a neuroscientific standpoint of saying that from the time that we're born, we're basically created for relationship. And that's not like a new idea. Like people know all about attachment theory, especially as it relates to young kids and how they relate to their parents.
Right.
But I'm sure many people are familiar with the fact that like the most development for children happens within the first like year or like 3 years of their life. And like that's where they learn like basically everything about how to like live and how to react to like their circumstances and like who they can trust. Like, can they trust their parents? Can they trust, you know, whatever figures are in their life? And it's like from like day one of being born, we're essentially created for a relationship. And I think that's where I kind of landed with it all. It's like, yeah, it took me having faith, yes, but also like in the process, it helped me understand how I connect with other people and like kind of where the line of like me ends and like other people can like begin in my life.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah, huge step for sure. Because, I mean, you're a different person now. So shout out to that. Okay.
Sure, bro. What about you, Theo?
I got married very recently, and dude, big step. I've talked about it, especially when we're in the singleness, or I guess relationship episode. But I had been in, you know, dating relationships up until, you know, the point where I dated my wife. But just the process of like making a decision from like, oh, this is fun, like we're just dating and like, you know, whatever, to like committing my life to somebody was a massive step. And then the same week that we basically we got engaged, we also we bought a house like that same week.
Right.
So it was like the two like biggest probably decisions that I was ever going to make. I mean, definitely getting married and then, I mean, purchasing a
real
home.
estate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All happened like that. And it was like, I shut down completely.
Did you?
Like I I just like disengaged from everything because it's like, so as an Enneagram type 3, I'm an achiever, but when I'm in unhealth, I become a 9. But I go to disengagement. I try to, like just do anything I can to not focus on what's going on.
Yeah.
So literally like everything I was just so like tapped out on because I was so stressed about the fact that I'm spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and also marrying somebody.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I think like, I think it's interesting because obviously, it was, I mean, we planned to get married. So it was like there was more of kind of a plan in place. But I think, there's aspects to it that were like, in no way did I like, so Madison and I were good friends for a long time. And it wasn't like we just, planned on getting married the entirety of our friendship.
Mm-hmm.
So there was kind of like some unexpected kind of aspects of that decision. It's interesting for both of you because Cody, you talk about how like obviously you planned on it down the road, but it definitely wasn't planned to happen now.
Right. Right.
And then Jimmy, to your point of like, you definitely didn't plan on moving to Phoenix. I think there's this, and I want to get your input on it. There's this like, we're talking about stepping out in faith, right? Like making decisions where it's like, this doesn't necessarily logically line up, but I whether I feel it in my gut or feel it in my head. I was actually listening to a thing this week in kind of the psychological understanding of the human soul.
Mm-hmm.
So, all three of us are Christians, and the idea of the soul is all throughout Scripture. But, there's an idea of the soul like in psychology, and it's really kind of made up of three things: your mind or your thoughts, your feelings or your emotions, and then your will, like what you want to do. And really, I think in making any decision, your soul is what's kind of the dictator of that decision that's made, and it's broken up into those three things. So, does it make sense mentally? Do my thoughts line up? Do I feel it? And do I have that like gut feeling of like, I feel like I should do it? And so obviously for both of you, for sure, the mental side of it probably wasn't fully there.
Right.
So you're leaning on like your emotions and your will.
Right.
I think sometimes people though are trying to be like, well, I want to make a big step, but I want it to come to me, which happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like it does kind of work out. And you could argue that for both of you guys, like technically, that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely wasn't like it came to you and you're like, oh, obviously this is the decision I made. You for sure had to like chase it. Talk to me about how you moved though from like not doing anything to like, I'm just going to jump and take the plunge and like go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was there a moment where you're like, this makes enough sense that I'll do it? Or how did you kind of come to the conclusion of like, okay, I'm going to do the thing that I feel like I should do?
Yeah. So I think it's been, I mean, just for me personally, I think prayers always played such a huge impact in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So when there was an opportunity for me to move out of the season that I was in for probably about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, post college.
Yeah.
It was mentally, everything was a no up until even after I closed the deal. I found loopholes to get myself out, essentially.
Yeah.
Not really, but
yeah,
that really you go down to, okay, I was so afraid. I was questioning everything mentally. I was checked out. But my gut and then discernment was just say, no, move and walk into this. And so that's what I was really trying to stay true to.
Yeah.
To go off what you're saying, though, it's, I probably didn't sleep for a month. Of just awful anxiety and something you both know. That's what I struggle with most in life is anxiety. And what did it question?
So
How did I go ahead?
Yeah, how'd you move from like that anxiety then to like, okay, I'm gonna do it?
Yeah, I really, it kind of goes into what Jimmy's talking about. It's who I surrounded myself with.
Yeah.
The people around me were really, it goes back to my mom as well. They've always been mentors, and then I put with my mom, it's, we're going to go. And so, yes, I could talk about the importance of being rooted, but there's also importance of, I am not going to be spoon-fed anything in life. And so I have to then release myself out of a situation.
Yeah.
If there's a strategic either plan or discernment or God's open door, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it was obedience to depart. It was this obedience. I'm gonna put myself out there, and I am gonna put my back against the wall and understand that everything I'm doing logically doesn't make sense. Dropping out of
Right.
college, everyone I told looked at me sideways, and I was like, no,
Yeah.
like you guys really don't understand. I'll never forget. And part of that was such a testimony of where I'm at now. And I'll say it at Evangel University. I'm not gonna say her name, but I'm talking to one of the main ladies office
Mhm.
when it comes to student life,
Mhm.
and I'm explaining to her what I'm about to do.
Yeah.
There's been countless hours up to weeks of prayer
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she just looks at me. She goes, "Yeah, that doesn't make any sense." And
Yeah.
sarcastically, we leave on a good note.
Yeah.
Walking out, and she goes, "Well, good luck with whatever you do in life." And
Yeah.
I just remember like that. Literally, like, I had to pray so much about how hurt I was over that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to go off, it logically nothing. Jimmy moving, you getting married, buying a house on a week basis, a lot of that doesn't make sense.
Right.
There is this aspect of obedience that I'm gonna move into what I feel
Yeah.
the Lord's calling me.
Yeah.
Despite if the ones around you even can recognize what God's doing in your own life, which
Right.
that's when I think it's really different. When you don't have the support you feel like you want or deserve.
Yeah. No, that's great input to have that for both of you, kind of that advice to kind of like to make the push. I mean, I know Jimmy, for you, it's like my phone call of like, yeah, you definitely should move out out here and do that. I think that's really good advice. And I'd say for me, one of the things that I think a lot about is kind of the whole idea of like a lot of times we face anxiety or stress or frustration because we're trying to take control of things that we don't have control over. It's the whole like idea of our circle of influence, and we're trying to do things outside of our circle of influence, and we can only really deal with what's inside our circle of influence.
Yeah.
And so something I've really tried to do, and something I tried to do with this decision was that I really wanted to control, and maybe control is not the right word, but really I guess steward is probably a better word, the things that were inside of my circle of influence, so that absolutely everything that I like knew that I could possibly be in charge of, I was like taking ownership of it. Because there's so many other changes outside of my circle of influence. I mean, I'm moving from singleness to marriage. I'm moving from some debt to a ton of debt.
Right,
I'm moving from like these huge, these things that really, if I make the decision, I don't have a ton of control over. But it's like sleeping at a good time, like, spiritually for me, like the days that I read scripture and the days I don't, I mean, everybody else probably can tell.
Yeah.
Like, eating a good diet, exercise, like things that could seem mundane or could seem like, not a big deal. But because I controlled those things and stewarded those things, then some of those other things that I couldn't control, it was like, well, at least I know that I'm faithful with what I have. There's a verse in scripture that says, when we're faithful with a little, God will trust us with a lot.
Right.
And I think that idea kind of applies to what I'm talking about is like, starting a job, moving across the country, getting married. They're like, that's a lot. But if we're faithful with the little things, and kind of the things that are in front of us, I think it definitely helps us steward that quote unquote lot a lot better.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
If both of you, probably a question of what I think we see quite a bit is how do you move? So let's say, us three, the examples we gave, those are major situations, and I think you have some people who might be listening or just in general like, well, I've never had to face either a circumstance or an opportunity to that degree. Part of me, and where I might be incorrect, would argue maybe you have been faced with that. But what you're saying, there maybe hasn't been much stewardship, and two, then ownership of taking advantage of a situation. And so earlier, Theo, you were talking about, I think sometimes we want something to be handed to us. So then how do we move out of, well, I'm praying so much, but nothing is coming. The Lord's not opening a door. How do we move out of almost that mentality? Or is that a healthy mentality to have into something essentially more? Does that make sense?
No, totally. Jimmy, you got anything? Or if not, I do.
Yeah, I'll just say something real quickly as far as not with the decision that I had with moving out to Arizona, but I think my perspective has shifted since I've been here, especially recently. I had evaluated a lot of other decisions of like, I was really unhappy when I was in Oklahoma, and I tried to look at why was that the case. And then I realized that there were a lot of decisions prior to that that I didn't make because I was waiting for it to be handed to me. And a lot of things that I thought, well, like, this is what I want, and like the Lord knows like what I want, so I'm just gonna stay where I'm at until it happens. But it's like, that's not realistic.
Yeah.
Like, that can happen.
Yeah.
And it does.
Yeah.
But it's not to say that that's like always the way that it can or should happen.
Right.
And I realized that there was a lot that I personally just didn't take ownership of.
Right.
So like, for instance, I wanted to actually keep going to school in Missouri. I was talking to Theo about this the other day, and before I moved back to Oklahoma. But I moved back to Oklahoma essentially as a last resort because I feel like I didn't do my due diligence when I was there. And I think that there was a lot more that I could have done, but I saw a lack of opportunity and a lack of options as like, oh, well, like this door's probably just closing. And it was like a very fatalistic, like, well, like, yeah, it just didn't work out, so like I'll just like whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, in reality, I had to go to a school that I knew much less about, working at jobs that I really didn't want to be at that paid a lot less than what I probably could have done had I just like put in a little bit of extra effort. And a lot of it is due, I mean, to be honest, I think a lot of it was because there was a lot of daily stuff that I just wasn't doing, that it's like, for people who have experienced difficult circumstances, you navigate your life a lot differently than whenever everything's okay.
Yeah.
And so it's like, whenever things are fine, myself included, it's easy to just be like, well, I'll just like, watch TV all day, or like I'll just like play games, or like, do whatever.
Yeah.
Because like life is fun and life is great.
Yeah.
When it's like, in reality, whenever I'm like desperate for my job situation to change, dude, I had freaking not prayed that much in my life. And I was like, dude, I was looking at so many jobs, and like, it's like frustrating, but it's like, I hadn't worked for it that hard until that moment.
Yeah.
And really, that's kind of like what led up to it, is like, I actually cared enough to like, and not to say that, people don't care about, fill in the blank, but it's like, that I believe played a really big part in actually seeing those results and taking that step is because I started having a lot more proactivity leading up to that moment. So that way, whenever it did happen, it was like, you know what, I'm ready to make the move. Like, I've thought about it, I've considered it, I've done all the like these steps. Like, still doesn't make sense,
right?
But I'm gonna do it.
Right. No, that's really good to maybe like bring a capstone to what you're talking about. It's the thought that we need to steward the seasons of peace, so that when the season of opposition comes, we can really step into it fully. Because what ends up happening is like, so let's use Jimmy as the example, right? So like, Jimmy gets frustrated in Oklahoma. Now, let's say Jimmy's like working a job while he's frustrated. If he's just frustrated and then he goes into work every day while he's working this job and he's just pissed off all the time, his boss is going to look at him and be like, hey, guy, you're fired. Like, you're the worst, right? He closes the door on himself. But if he's like faithful to the season that he has a job, although he doesn't like it, but it's a peaceful, quote unquote, season. Now when like crunch time comes of like, okay, opposition's coming, I need to make a decision, I don't want to be in Oklahoma anymore. Okay, now he can actually like, let's say step to Phoenix, for example, and use his boss as a reference to whatever job he wants at Phoenix because he was faithful in the peace.
Right.
And I think sometimes like, and I've been guilty of this a lot, where I hate the season that I'm in. And so I get frustrated, but then I shoot myself in the foot, because then it's like, oh, time to get out. But I no doors are open because I was dragging my feet through the season that I just found myself in.
Yeah.
And so I think there really comes a point where it's like, we've got to recognize that, we want to open more doors for ourselves than we shut on ourselves.
Yeah. That's so good.
So let's try and really be faithful. And then Cody, to your point too, of like, things aren't just handed to us. I think like there just has to come a thought where it's like, what do you want? Like, what do you want out of life?
Yeah.
One of my favorite passages in all of Scripture and we'll shift it to kind of the Christian talk now, right? One of my favorite passages in all of Scriptures is in John 16, where Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he says, "You're no longer my slaves, but you're now my friends. Because as a friend, you know what the master is doing, right? When you're a slave, you're just like, tell me whatever you want to do, master. Like, I'll just follow you because you're the master and I'm the slave and I do whatever you want." But Jesus has this moment where he says, "You've watched my life for the last 3 years in ministry, and now you're my friends." In other words, you know my heart. So you don't have to sit there and say, "What do you want me to do?" You can just make the decision because you have my Holy Spirit and my spirit in you. And so I think what happens sometimes is like Christians will progress in their faith and they'll get closer to God, but they keep coming to him as a master, saying like, "God, what do you want me to do?" And he's like, "I'm not your master anymore. I'm your friend. So like, it's time for you to just make the decision and then I'll bless it."
Yeah.
And so I think like
That's
this podcast is a great example where it's like, okay, ironically, I have a friend that just was asked to start a podcast. So in a world, this could happen where someone could come to you and say, "Hey, you should start a podcast." Bro, most people though, it's like nobody's going to be like, "You should start a podcast." It's just going to be, "I'm going to start a podcast."
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, what did I want? Well, I wanted to be able to put something out to people and have fun with you guys because this is fun.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I'm just going to do it. And I'm not going to be like, "Well, God didn't open the door for me to start a podcast." No, like I'll go open the door. The door, it's a door, dude. Like, how do you, I literally never do I just walk up to a door and I'm like bump it.
Yeah.
I literally take the handle.
Yeah.
I turn it and I open it.
Right.
But then sometimes in the Christian-y world, we're like, "I'm waiting for God to open the door."
Yeah.
And it's like, or you're his friend, and as his friend, you could walk up to the door and open it yourself and realize that he blesses you with it.
That's on spot. That's so good. What did you say? You said showing stewardship in the seasons of peace.
Yeah, we need to steward the seasons of peace so that we can flourish in the seasons of opposition.
I think you could end it
Yo.
on that. That's life changing.
Jimmy, you got something?
Yeah, as you were saying that, I just have this like Fuego quote that it reminded me of this, and I just like, I'm like, dude, I like have to share. It's like on kind of what you were saying, Theo.
Yeah.
But it was this it was a psychology professor at the at Arizona State, actually. And he was talking about psychology's influence on the decline of theology and religion in the past centuries. And what he says is that essentially, well, I'll just paraphrase it because it's kind of a long quote.
Yeah.
But basically he says that the rate at which we spiritually mature and understand God doesn't mature at the same rate that like our moral and physical and emotional capacities develop. So for a lot of Christians, for instance, they struggle with faith because their way of understanding and relating to God is the same way that they would in like the 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And so mentally and physically, they continue to grow.
Right.
But spiritually, their understanding of God and of theology never progresses to the point to where they can understand things on a complex level given like their stage of life.
That's so good. And I mean, it's the exact thing, right? Like literally God saying, "I want to give you more, but you just got to start like taking ownership and like grow up so that I can actually give it to you."
Right.
You know, it's like if I was going to teach a kid construction, it's like, "Oh, you can start like, I don't know, screwing in like, little screws. But I'm just going to hand you a table saw because like you're a child."
Right.
But then it's like you have these full grown adults that are still like screwing in stuff and like cutting things with like little butter knives. And God's like, "I could hand you a table saw, or I mean, you could just pick it up because that's like how it works." Right.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think props to both of you for like stepping out and stepping into a season that you're still in the middle of, and something that you're still kind of waiting to see the full benefits of, but something that you're both completely different because of it. Yeah. And I know Jimmy and I have talked about this, and we'll end it here, but you look at like school debt, for example, in college, and I remember Jimmy, you saying that you're like, people could be like, well, you have all this debt. It's so ridiculous. But it's like the person that I am today is directly correlating to the fact that I went to that university.
Yeah.
So literally the debt that I have, like, essentially was like paid so that I can become this person.
Yeah.
So it's like, you just got to understand and realize that seasons of life, as difficult as they may be, they do change us. And if we can embrace them properly, they'll set us up to be such better people. And
Right.
Yeah,
hopefully,
totally.
better followers of Jesus in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, that perspective shift. That's good.
Yeah. Well, this is a good conversation, and
Yeah.
hopefully you learned a little something. And, if you're out there trying to make a big decision, we'd love to talk to you about it. So make sure and email us this week. Also, check out the digital library. I know Jimmy was talking about some books. Cody was talking about some things that we will add this week to the digital library. So make sure you're checking that out. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. It was a longer one, but we're just so wise that we just had to keep dropping bombs on people.
Bomb.
True.
Love you guys.
Love you. Have a great week. We'll see you next
See ya.
week.